Returnal is Housemarque's new roguelite third-person shooter, and it's the highest production value roguelite I've ever played by far. The first thing you'll notice when you boot up the game is the excellent presentation. The game's different biomes are all beautiful alien worlds, ranging from ruined architecture in the desert to derelict cities occupied by violent automatons. Enemy designs are varied and manage a nice balance between creepy-looking and intimidating. These varied biomes and sweet enemy designs are pretty important too, because you'll be replaying some of these biomes a lot. Returnal follows Celine, an astronaut who's crash-landed on an undiscovered planet called Atropos. She quickly discovers she's in a loop, reliving her crash every time she dies on Atropos and starting her search for escape from scratch. Once you leave the crash site, you're in enemy territory, as traps and monsters lurk around every corner as you explore, and each run only starts you with a simple pistol. As you explore the biomes of Atropos, though, you'll find new weapons, suit upgrades, and stat boosters, most of which you lose each time you die. Ultimately, no matter how much you trick out your suit, most of your success in Returnal is going to come from your own skill. Even with the best upgrades, enemies can kill you in just a few hits if you dodge wrong, and with some enemies firing hails of projectiles at you, it's easy for a good run to go south very quickly. This makes it all the more satisfying when you figure out a tough enemy's attack pattern and finally take them out. You can acquire upgrades for Celine's suit in a few ways during Returnal runs. There are the expected ways like spending money to buy them from fabricators or opening chests, but what sets Returnal apart is the malfunction and parasite system. Once you get into the later biomes, almost every upgrade as well as many of the health pickups will come with a chance to give you a malfunction, which is a debuff that lasts until you meet a certain condition. Malfunctions range in terms of how much they hinder your run and how easy they are to remove. You might end up with a not so bad malfunction that's easy to get rid of, or you might get stuck with something like 30% increased damage taken, and you won't be able to fix it without fighting a bunch of enemies. This system is complemented by the parasite system. Sometimes enemies drop parasites that Celine can attach to her suit. Each one gives a positive effect and a negative effect. Parasites can be pretty tough to get rid of too, so you really have to be careful when choosing which ones to attach. These systems combine to create an interesting dynamic where Returnal isn't just asking you, do you want this sweet buff? It's asking you, how much do you want this sweet buff, and would you take a malfunction for it? There will be times where you confidently open every chest you see, but when you're deep in a run at lower health, you'll really have to think about how much you want that health pickup. For the most part, you don't keep your items from run to run, but there are a few upgrades that you get to keep permanently that give you greater access to parts of each biome. I found these to be a mixed bag. The best ones are the melee attack and grappling hook because both of these enable you to access new areas, but they also provide new and interesting options in combat. You can use the grappling hook to dodge and reposition, and the melee attacks help you break shields and take out any enemy that gets too close. Unfortunately, the other upgrades just let you access some extra health pickups or buffs each run. I found these upgrades a little disappointing because they don't enhance the moment-to-moment gameplay at all, they just make your runs a little easier in a way that isn't particularly engaging. Another neat feature of Returnal is the adrenaline system. Every time you kill 3 enemies, your adrenaline level goes up, providing Celine upgrades like more powerful melee attacks or more money from each enemy kill. If you get hit though, all of your adrenaline goes away and you have to start from zero. The result is that when you get in the zone, dodge every enemy attack, and start killing enemies left and right, you feel great. But the minute you get hit, you come crashing back down to earth. This makes every hit feel like it matters, and also contributes to the feeling that Returnal rewards good play, and that your own skill will be the thing to eventually get you through the next biome. Perhaps my favorite feature of Returnal is the way that it interacts with the PlayStation 5 controller. The game makes excellent use of the haptic feedback functionality, giving your hands a different feeling for rain, the recoil of different guns, or landing after a long fall. My favorite part of Returnal's use of the controller, though, is its application of adaptive triggers. Each weapon in Returnal has 2 modes of fire, a normal shot that you aim by holding the left trigger down halfway, and a powerful alternate fire that you aim by pulling the trigger all the way down. I was concerned about this at first because when I've used controlled schemes like this in other games, I often have trouble getting the trigger to be exactly where I want it, but with adaptive triggers, they might as well be different buttons. After a couple minutes, it feels totally natural to hold halfway down for normal shots and all the way down for big shots. One major complaint I do have about Returnal though is the length of runs for a game that doesn't have a save feature. Getting through a biome can take you over an hour, and while you can pause, you can't save. This makes Returnal lack that bite-sized one more run addictive appeal that you get from other roguelites. When I die, I just feel drained instead of raring to start another run. Additionally, the game did crash twice during my 23-hour playthrough, which feels much worse 40 minutes into a run than it would in another roguelite. Fortunately, it was just 2 crashes, and I didn't notice any other bugs or issues beyond that in my time with the game. The story of Returnal is deeper than what I've come to expect from roguelites, and it's delivered primarily in 2 ways. First, through audio logs strewn about each biome, left by previous versions of Selene that didn't survive their run. Second, each time you clear a biome, you'll get to make a trip into Selene's home that has strangely also found its way onto Atropos. These sections are extremely spooky, and the developer's choice to make them first person was a good one that really adds to the atmosphere. You'll realize pretty quickly that there's something strange going on Atropos. You know, beyond it being an unknown alien planet. You'll spend most of the game trying to piece together incomplete information to figure out why Selene is here and where the planet's inhabitants come from. The game drip feeds just enough information that you'll constantly be amending your theories, but it doesn't come right out and tell you anything until the end of the game. If you're into weird, mysterious stories like I am, this will be right up your alley. The only major issue I have with the story is that its pacing is determined entirely by your performance during your runs through Atropos. If you finish every biome in 3 or 4 attempts, the story comes at a pretty good pace, but it becomes awkward if you get stuck somewhere or blaze through a couple biomes on your first try. I had the most trouble getting through the 3rd biome of the game, and after a few runs, I had found all the audio logs, so there were hours of gameplay where I basically got no story progression, but after that biome, I beat the next 2 in my first attempt. So I got almost no story for hours, and then tons of it in the next hour and a half. So all of this is to say that the pacing of the story suffers if your speed at completing each biome isn't consistent. Still, this is the most robust story of any roguelite I've ever played outside of Hades, and I was delighted to have another chance to enter the house after completing each biome. All in all, Returnal is an excellent roguelite that brings high production values, an interesting story, and hectic gameplay that sometimes feels more like a bullet hell than a traditional third-person shooter. It's a must-play for fans of the genre, and it's a good entry point to the genre for anyone that hasn't tried a roguelite. The focus on story and the separated biomes that almost function like levels makes it feel much closer to a typical adventure shooter than other roguelites. But it still has the procedural generation and upgrade system that fans have come to expect from the genre. The pacing issues of the story, as well as the game not quite hitting that addictive feeling I get from other roguelites, does hold the game back a little for me though, which is why I would give it a grade of B+. Definitely a strong game that PS5 players should try, especially while the console's library is still a little sparse. If you like this video and you want to see more content like it, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. I also stream every Saturday at 11 CST at twitch.tv/BadgerBarian, so check that out if you're interested, and have an awesome week.